What if I told you that deep in the quiet woods of Vermont, where the fog rolls in like spilled milk and the only sound after dusk is the whisper of wind through pine, there's a forgotten mine sealed for over a century that once pulsed with an eerie blue glow, a glow that didn't fade when the sun set, but intensified. Miners said it looked like the rocks themselves were breathing in moonlight. Strange, yes, but stranger still is what happened next. Men began to vanish, not one or two, dozens. Some wandered out of the mine raving about visions. Others were found huddled in corners, eyes wide, lips trembling, muttering nonsense about voices in the stone. And a few were never found at all. Just left behind were singed oil lamps and boot prints leading straight to cliff edges. Authorities chalked it up to bad air or madness. Locals weren't so sure. They called it the glowing stone curse and warned outsiders to never dig too deep. Tonight, we're pulling back the veil on one of the strangest stories buried beneath America's soil. Was this glowing ore a scientific anomaly or something far more sinister? From government cover-ups to whispered native legends, this tale has everything: mystery, madness, and a glow that refuses to die. Stick around, because what you're about to hear may change how you see the ground beneath your feet. Picture a sleepy Vermont town in the fall of 1891, where general stores smelled like tobacco and kerosene, horses outnumbered people, and gossip traveled faster than the only train that passed through once a week. Locals worked hard, drank harder, and trusted no one who didn't have dirt under their fingernails. Then came the rumors. A prospector named Emmett Doyle wandered into town, wild-eyed and stammering about a rock that glowed like frozen lightning. Most folks figured he'd sampled too much of his own moonshine, until he pulled a chunk of pale blue ore from his pack that shimmered in the shade. It didn't take long for word to spread. Within weeks, the hillside near Black Hollow was swarming with miners, backed by a shady New York investment syndicate calling itself the Ether Consortium. Their mission? Extract as much of this so-called luminous quartz as possible before anyone else could stake a claim. But the glow wasn't the only thing strange about the mine. Tools would vanish overnight. Canaries brought down to test air quality dropped dead before cages were even opened. And then there was the smell, an odd metallic tang in the tunnels like scorched copper and wet moss. Some miners joked that the mountain had a heartbeat. Others said nothing, packed up, and left in the dead of night. The local paper, the Hollow Ledger, ran headlines like "Phantom Blue Fire Startles Night Crew" and "Prospector Claims Stone Whispers His Name." Most townsfolk laughed until the accident started. First came a collapse, triggered by what one survivor swore was a pulse from the rock wall. Then a miner named Reuben Kessler vanished mid-shift. His lunch pail was still warm. His pickaxe was found neatly placed on the tunnel floor. The shift boss, a grizzled Civil War vet named Horace McGinley, tried to write it off as cowardice. "Men crack," he grunted, "especially the soft ones." But Horace wasn't laughing 2 weeks later, when he stumbled into town babbling nonsense, bleeding from his ears, and convinced his own reflection was someone else trying to get out. Stranger still, he disappeared the following morning from a locked infirmary room. By the end of that winter, the mine was shuttered, the investors gone, and the mountain sealed off by a hastily built timber wall. No explanations, no apology. Yet the glow never stopped. Whatever this glowing stone was, it had left a trail of vanishings, madness, and whispers buried deep beneath Black Hollow. But the strangest part? We haven't even reached the truly bizarre yet. Let's rewind to February of 1892, just weeks before the mine's abrupt shutdown. Snow blanketed the region, and the only thing colder than the weather was the silence coming from the Black Hollow pit. That's when it happened. The first disappearance no one could explain away. His name was Elijah Maris, a second-generation miner known for singing Irish folk tunes between swings of his pickaxe. One night, he ventured alone into Shaft 3, carrying only an oil lamp and a stubborn streak. He never came back. His lamp was found hours later, burned out and twisted like it had melted from the inside. The strange part? His footprints stopped halfway through the tunnel, not turned back, not doubled, just stopped. The site was sealed and management claimed a cave-in, but the workers knew better. The ground hadn't moved. No rubble, no warning, just the lingering scent of hot metal and, some swore, ozone. Fast forward 3 nights. A small crew reopened the shaft to recover Elijah's body. Instead, they found markings etched deep into the walls, jagged, looping symbols no one recognized, like some unholy marriage between Morse code and cave paintings. Miners said the symbols were warm to the touch, even though the tunnel was freezing. One even claimed the stone hummed, and that wasn't metaphorical. He said the ore actually vibrated beneath his palm like a heartbeat. They called in a geologist from Boston, but he vanished en route, last seen at a train depot in Brattleboro, muttering something about resonant frequencies and mineral sentience. And then there were the sounds. Several miners reported hearing phantom mine carts rolling across tracks that hadn't existed for months. Metal clanking, wheels grinding on stone, always at midnight. One foreman, Jonas Wellings, swore he saw a lantern bobbing in the tunnel, suspended in midair. When he approached, it vanished, and he returned with a nosebleed and a 1,000-yard stare. A week later, Jonas's journal was found near the mine's exit. His final entry, "They're not lights, they're eyes." Of course, there's always the chance he was sleep-deprived or mad, except for the fact that every single person who read that journal said the same thing. The handwriting on the last page wasn't his. It slanted the opposite direction. It was written in blue ink, but no one ever remembered him using anything but pencil. Even more bizarre were the oral stories passed down by local Abenaki families. Elders warned of a living stone buried in the hills, cursed to shine forever as punishment for disrupting sacred ground. They said the mountain itself was once a burial site, and the glowing ore was a kind of warning system, an eye that awakens when the dead are restless. Superstitious? Maybe. But when the Smithsonian quietly requested a sample in 1894, the courier sent to retrieve it disappeared en route. His carriage was found overturned in a stream, its wheels still spinning. No body, just that same blue shimmer left on the seat cushion. So what do we have so far? A glowing ore that shouldn't glow, disappearing miners, symbols no one can read, hallucinations, missing journals, unexplained sounds, cold light, hot walls, whispers that grow louder the deeper you go. And still, no answers. But it gets weirder, because not everyone who entered the mine vanished. One man came out, and what he claimed to see down there might blow this whole story wide open. Now let's shine a headlamp on the facts and see what's fiction, what's forgotten, and what might be hiding in plain sight. First stop, the archives. Deep in the bowels of the Vermont State Records Office, buried under decades of tax assessments and birth certificates, is a letter dated March 1892. Addressed to a local sheriff, it reads, "Do not permit further digging. Exposure may lead to wider contamination." Contamination of what exactly? The document doesn't say, but it's signed by a name we trace to a now defunct division of the U.S. Geological Survey, one that specialized in unexplained mineral phenomena. Next, we spoke with Dr. Leonard Harrow, a modern-day geochemist who's made a career studying luminescent minerals. His take? Some minerals, like fluorite, do glow under UV light, but a constant, unaided glow in total darkness? That's something else. You're either dealing with radioactivity or folklore with an unusually good lighting budget. Then he laughed, but only a little. He ran simulations using mineral data from nearby sites and concluded that, yes, trace amounts of uranium could exist in Vermont's bedrock, but nowhere near enough to produce glowing cliffs or heat through gloves, as eyewitnesses described. In short, something's off. So maybe we turn to the rumors. Local legend speaks of a man, old Silas Merton, who survived 5 days alone in the mine. When he emerged, he claimed the stone was watching him. He said the glow followed him when he tried to sleep. His neighbors chalked it up to dehydration, until every mirror in his home shattered the same night. Coincidence? Or perhaps just the kind of thing you say when you're trying not to admit you smashed them yourself after seeing something you couldn't explain. Then there's the folk theory that the mine cut through a sacred geological fault. something akin to a spiritual artery. Native oral traditions refer to waking stones that act as wardens over burial grounds. Could this glowing stone be one of them? Is it a supernatural safeguard or a misunderstood geological phenomenon wrapped in superstition? And let's not ignore the conspiracy crowd. Some believe the Ether Consortium wasn't just a mining company, but a front for early government experimentation into radioluminescence. The theory goes, they stumbled onto something dangerous, or perhaps valuable. A new kind of energy source, a weapon, something they couldn't control. Whatever it was, they shut it down, paid off survivors, and buried the story, along with the mine. Of course, not all theories are terrifying. One charming local insists the glow was just the reflection of moonlight on bat guano, which, while creative, raises more questions than it answers. Like, how bright does your moon need to be? But no matter which theory you subscribe to, radioactive ore, ancient curse, shadowy government plot, there's one thing every account agrees on. Something about that mine was wrong. The deeper they dug, the stranger it got, and the glowing never stopped. Even now, hikers report odd sensations when near the old sealed entrance. Compass needles swing, phones lose signal, and once, just once, a park ranger swore he saw a light flicker through the cracks in the boards. Even though the site has no power, no access, and no reason to glow, which leaves us with a choice. Believe the official record or trust the whispers echoing through time. Because whether it was science, spirits, or secrets that haunted that mine, the truth is still buried beneath Black Hollow. So, what really happened in the glowing stone mine? Was it a bizarre natural phenomenon, an undiscovered radioactive mineral pulsing with unseen energy? Or a secret government experiment that went off the rails before the age of classified files and lead-lined vaults? Or maybe, just maybe, it was something older than all of that. Something buried deep in the earth long before miners ever swung their picks. What we know is this: men vanished. Witnesses saw lights where no light should be. Strange markings appeared, and a cold blue glow continues to pulse beneath the soil of Vermont. Long after the mine was sealed, it could be geology, it could be folklore, it could be a cover-up so well buried, even the conspirators forgot the truth. But here's a thought. What if the truth isn't buried at all? What if it's watching, waiting, glowing, just out of reach? One thing's for sure, Black Hollow didn't give up all its secrets. Not yet. And perhaps one day, a bold explorer or an unlucky hiker will crack open that mine again and see what was never meant to be seen. If you've heard whispers of similar glowing stones, mysterious disappearances, or haunted mines in your corner of the world, drop it in the comments below. We want to hear your theories. Maybe you're sitting on the next story we uncover. And if this tale pulled you in, do us a favor. Give this video a like, share it with someone who loves their history weird and unexplained, and hit subscribe so you never miss another episode of Forgotten Truths and Hidden Timelines. Next time, we will take you to learn about a piece of forgotten history, the mysterious road repairman after the Great Chicago Fire.